Welcome back to The Ambassadors. I'm thrilled to dive into today's topic with you. Let's get right into it.
What if the whole point of being a great leader wasn't about being in charge, but about, well, making yourself unnecessary? Today we're going to deconstruct a really fascinating leadership model that comes from a pretty surprising place, a devotional text called Ambassadors' Daily Banquets. We're going to break down its core ideas, look at the examples it uses, and see how it all fits together. Ready? Let's dive in.
So let's just get right to the heart of it with this one question. Is a leader's job to create followers, or is it to create more leaders? Now you can find a million different opinions on this, but the text we're looking at today has a very strong point of view. It doesn't just ask the question, it gives a definitive answer. It argues that the true purpose of leadership is all about one thing: multiplication. Okay, so what does that actually mean, multiplication? Well, think of it this way. A lot of people see a leader as, a giant oak tree, right? Providing all the shade and structure. But this model suggests a totally different approach. Instead of being the one big tree, your job is to be the one who plants an entire forest of them. It's all about empowering others to grow and lead themselves, not just hoarding all the authority. This whole idea is really anchored in this single verse, and the source we're looking at interprets this as way more than just some nice advice. It sees it as a literal blueprint for a kind of leadership chain reaction. See the structure there? One person teaches a few faithful people, who then turn around and are able to teach others. It's a system that's designed to replicate itself, spreading from one generation of leaders to the next. And that's where we get this core concept, leadership multiplication. This is so much more than just training your replacement. It's about training someone who can then train their replacement, creating this incredible, never-ending chain of capable leaders. You're building a legacy that goes way, way beyond what you alone could ever accomplish. Now, this all sounds really good in theory, right? But does it actually work in the real world? Well, the text doesn't just leave us hanging there. It actually points to two really powerful historical models that it claims are perfect illustrations of this whole principle in action. Let's take a closer look. And what's so fascinating here is the parallel that it draws. On the one hand, you've got the Apostle Paul mentoring Timothy. On the other, Jesus training the apostles. The source argues that in both situations, the underlying goal is exactly the same. A true leader's job is to prepare others to carry the mission forward, long after they're gone. It's all about ensuring continuity. So what's the big deal? Why does this even matter? Well, according to this text, this isn't just a stylistic choice. It's a decision with huge consequences. The source lays out two very different paths, one that leads to incredible growth and one that leads to stagnation. And it all boils down to that one choice. Do you empower others, or do you hoard the authority? When a leader really leans into this idea of multiplication, the text says it's like lighting a fire. The impact isn't just one-to-one, it's exponential. It builds this incredible culture of trust and collaboration where everyone feels safe to bring their best ideas to the table. It's really the difference between being a solo act and conducting a whole symphony. And the alternative? Yeah, it's a pretty grim picture. The source is very clear that leaders who refuse to let go of control, well, they're essentially putting a ceiling on their own potential. It's a direct path to burnout, stagnation, and an impact that is forever limited to what just one person can do. It's like trying to build a skyscraper with only your own two hands. It's just not going to work.
But look, this isn't just a collection of abstract ideas. Because of its devotional nature, this text isn't content to just tell you what to do and why. It also gives you a step-by-step guide on how you can actually start applying this in your own life. And this really lays out the whole journey. It starts with self-reflection. You got to look in the mirror and ask those tough questions. Am I a multiplier or am I holding people back? From there, it moves into the hands-on part, mentoring, teaching, really investing in people. And it all builds up to a deep personal commitment to this idea of multiplication, what the text refers to as kingdom expansion. So, if we had to boil this entire philosophy down to one key takeaway, it's this. Leadership isn't a position you hold, it's a responsibility you have for what comes next. It's not about being the star of the show. It's about being the director who empowers an entire cast of stars to shine. The number one job is to make sure the mission continues and thrives long after you've left the stage.
And that leaves us with one final thing to think about. If we imagine leadership as a chain, being passed from one person to the next, what's the single greatest threat to that chain? According to this model, it's the leader who believes they are the final link, the person who, for whatever reason, decides that the chain stops with them. And that is a
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.